y'all, it's Jessica from Sloppy Swatches. Today I have a look at the Now and Then collection coming from Femme Fatale Cosmetics. These will be releasing March 1st through 5th, 2019 and only available for one pre-sale. So if you love any of these, do not miss out on this opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and share my number one of favorite. It is Like Mother, Like Daughter. So this one is described as a clear when warm to pink when cold thermal with assorted matte glitters in white and neon pink with holographic pink glitter as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like for me on my natural nail. Because this one does turn clear when it's warm, it is one that you're going to want to build up. So here's a look at that first easy coat. It does make a nice smattering of those glitters across the nail with a slight pink tint. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry down and then show you how it built up for me with that quick second coat. So you can see my hands were running fairly warm this day, so it did transition really well to the warm or clear. Two coats, it does build up that finish and adds more of that glitter. With these types of thermals, I do prefer to go in for a third coat just to get the strongest shift possible. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like for today on my natural nail. So 3 coats is going to add a nice amount of that glitter, really perfect in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead, complete this coat, let it dry down, and then show you what it looks like for me in a natural shift with cold tips. So here's a quick look at that mani. This one does have a slight amount of texture, so I do recommend going in with 1 coat of your favorite glossy top coat, which I have done here. And I'm going to show you how it shifts today for me in cold water. So this is the natural warm shift and then to the cold shift. Really fun to play with, especially as the winter and we get into the summer months. I am completely head over heels for this polish. I love the combination. I love how the glitters look in that mix. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath artificial lighting. So next up, I have the Summer of 1970, and this one is described as a goldenrod yellow jelly with strong green to gold to red shifting pigment, as well as aurora shimmers, and it's accented with small golden holographic glitter. So this one strikes me as such a 70s polish. It is a little bit sheer. I'm going to go ahead and show you how that applied today for me on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first easy coat. This one does have a ton of those smaller glitters going in, but it's not gritty at all. It does go nice and smooth on the nail, just a little bit sheer. So I'm going to go ahead and complete that coat, let it dry down, and then show you how it built up for me with a second coat. So with this second coat, it does add more of that gorgeous yellow color as well as some of that shimmer. I do still have quite a bit of visible nail line showing, so I'm going to go ahead, let this dry down once more, and then show you how it built up for me with a third and final coat for today. So 3 coats, it does push this polish right to the edge of being completely opaque. I do still have a little bit of visible nail line. If you wanted to go in with a base coat for this one, you totally could, but I adore that holographic finish paired with this shimmer. It almost strikes me as like a Belle from Beauty and the Beast kind of polish as well. So here's a look at that completed mani. Add 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath artificial lighting, and then once more quickly from a different angle underneath that same artificial lighting. So this is my last swatch photo at an angle under that same artificial lighting. And then we're going to move on to Truth or Dare. So this is described as a mustard yellow crelly with a soft red glow. And this one has my heart. I'm really such a huge fan of mustard tone polishes, but that red shimmer really seals the deal for me. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how that looks like today for me on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first easy coat. This one, again, quite sheer. It's definitely one you're going to want to build up. And you can kind of get that from the crelly description of this polish. It is kind of smooth and milky, but just a little bit sheer. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry down and then show you how it built up for me with a quick second coat. So here is a look at that second coat. It does amp up that coverage almost immediately. You can tell it gets a much better punch of color as well as that red shimmer. With this one, I do have a little bit of visible nail line left, so I'm going to go ahead, complete this coat, and then show you how it built up for me with that third and final coat for today. I really think that this one benefits from that third coat. So here's a look at that. 3 coats is going to bring this polish completely opaque, especially if you like to go in for a little bit of a thicker coat like I do. So I'm really in love with the punch of color. I think the red shimmer is really fun on it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like in a completed mini. So here is Truth or Dare at 3 coats before glossy top coat underneath artificial lighting. Super, super cool combination. Definitely unique within my collection. And then here is a quick view from a different angle underneath that same artificial lighting. So this one pulls a little bit orange tone because of how strong that red is. And then this is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that artificial lighting. So next up I have Gaslight Edition, and this polish is described as a khaki green crelly with red to orange to green chameleon magnetic shimmer. Should be opaque in 3 thin coats with a top coat recommended. So this one is a magnetic polish, and I will show you how that works out with my neodymium magnet. I am going to go ahead and swatch this one over a black base. I feel like 3 coats for a magnetic is a little bit more than I want to do, especially because you have to hold that magnet over to get the effect every time. The magnetic effect in this polish is very, very subtle. So honestly, I enjoy this polish at 1 coat over a black coat, but I am going to go ahead and show you with a quick 2nd coat and kind of manipulate it a little bit with the magnet here, but I think at this point it was a little bit too dry to really get any kind of pull. So I am going to go ahead, apply that 2nd coat, and then show you how it reacted with that magnet. So here's a look at that 2nd easy coat. I did go in a little bit thicker here than honestly I would recommend going a little bit thinner. I do really like the effect that I got though with a thicker coat, but you're going to have to hold that magnet there longer to make sure that it is drying down with the pull still really, really strong. So for this, I hold the magnet like maybe 30 seconds up to a minute. The longer you hold it, the more impactful that magnetic shift is going to be, so I recommend doing it as long as you can. And also you can also go in with a top coat and then hold it again just to get a really strong effect. So here's a look at that completed mini at 2 coats over a black base with a magnetic interference. And then here's a quick view from a different angle in that artificial lighting. Really, really beautiful, but it's gorgeous on its own without the magnetic effect as well. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that artificial lighting. So next up I have a Eurotrip, and this polish is described as an orange tone brown base with subtle turquoise to pink shifting gleam, holographic accents, as well as red iridescent flakies. So this one is recommended to be opaque in 3 to 4 thin coats. It does have a little bit of a juicy feel to it, very, very sheer here. That's going to let all those flakes peek through all the layers, but it's going to take some time. So I'm going to go ahead, complete this coat, let it dry down, and then show you how it built up for me with a 2nd coat. So 2 coats goes on nice and creamy. Even though this does have a fair amount of flakes in it, it's not gritty, and I didn't have any issues manipulating those or getting them to lay fairly flush. 2 coats, I still have very strong visible nail lines. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry down and then show you how it built up for me with a 3rd and today final coat. So 3 coats is going to push it right to the edge of being completely opaque. At certain lightings or at angles, I can still see a little bit of visible nail lines. So if you want to, I would recommend going in for that 4th coat, or maybe even using an undie. I think that'd be really nice with this polish as well. So here's a look at that completed mini at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. So barely a hint of texture going in there, and with 1 coat of your favorite glossy top coat, it'll smooth right out. So here's a quick view from a different angle underneath that same artificial lighting. This one strikes me as a very like fall inspired polish, but it was the 70s, so I can totally see where the inspiration is coming from. This is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that same artificial lighting. So the last polish I have today is called Dear Johnny, and this polish is described as a cool-toned gray crelly with soft blue sheen and scattered holographic glitters in various sizes. Again, this is supposed to be opaque in 3 to 4 thin coats, and then they do recommend a nice glassy thick top coat for the textures to smooth those out. So here's a look at that first easy coat. This one is a very on point for the Femme Fatale brand, very ethereal and light, super in love with it. But go ahead, let that dry down, and then show you how it built up for me with a 2nd coat. So even at 2 coats, it is still fairly sheer, but it's allowing all those holographic glitters to peek through the layers. So I'm going to go ahead, complete this coat, and then show you how it builds up today with a 3rd and final coat. So here's a quick look at that. This is my 3rd and final coat. Again, if you wanted to go in for that 4th coat, you totally could. I'm kind of topped out at 3 right now, but 3 coats kind of puts it right to the edge. It's kind of like still sheer, but shimmery, very beautiful. I really love the effect on the nails. So here's a look at that completed mini at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath the artificial lighting. So just a bare amount of a texture going on there, especially if you get some of the larger holographic glitters, but 1 coat of a glossy, smooth top coat will smooth that right out. And then this is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that same artificial lighting. So this is my final swatch photo, and that does wrap up my swatch and review of the Now and Then collection. These will be available starting March 1st all the way through the 5th of 2019, and this is going to be a limited release with only one pre-sale. So if you love any of these polishes, don't miss out. I'll go ahead and link Femme Fatale Cosmetics down below, as well as some of their stockists. So if you'd like to see more, you can also follow me on Instagram at Sloppy Swatches. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.